marriage and this, that and the other, and then before you know it, you're old and you die. But what is it that you leave behind? What is it that you want to achieve during your lifetime? Have you thought about it? I spoke to someone this afternoon who's been in a corporate job for 30 years. And suddenly now she's thinking that she needs to do something different. Now, I'm not suggesting that all of you should quit your jobs. That's not the point. But just some thinking. We don't think. Ask anyone, why did you go to school? Because everyone went to school, so I went. Why did you go to university? Everybody went, I went. Why did you get married? Arey, what a question to ask. Everybody gets married, so I got married. And now why are you suffering? Everybody is suffering, so I'm suffering. If you were to pause and think, then options would open up to you. I'm not saying again that you should not do any of these things. But it should be well thought out. So, it's like this. Why do you need a purpose? Because otherwise, your thoughts go all over the place. Your thoughts are scattered. Then your thoughts have no power. When you gather your thoughts, then there's power in whatever you do. It gives you a sense of direction in life. Otherwise, you're just drifting. Most importantly, it lifts the drudgery. Ask anyone, how is life with you? Boring. Nowadays, you ask a child also, how is life with you? It's boring. Did you know that the word boring did not exist in the English dictionary before the 18th century? And now everyone is saying, I'm bored. And when you have purpose, it makes life worthwhile. So, when you have no purpose, you're drifting. You're waiting for someone to invite you. You are waiting to invite someone else. You're wondering why people don't like your posts on Instagram or Facebook, I don't know what. There is boredom. You can't enjoy life. You can enjoy only when you're energetic, enthusiastic, excited. How do you wake up in the morning? Do you wake up saying, oh God, I have to go to work today? Or do you wake up saying, I have one more day to fulfill my mission, my purpose? And then in the end, when you don't have a purpose, your thoughts revolve around just yourself. And this thought of self is the greatest obstacle that lies between you and success, between you and happiness, between you and your development, your growth. This obsession with self has become extreme nowadays. You know, there's a movie called The Legend of Bagger Vance. It is not a Bollywood movie, it's a mainstream Hollywood movie made by Robert Redford. And it's about a golfer in the 1930s who was excellent at golf, but because of some personal problem, quit golf and took to drinking. And then there was a competition announced. In those days, there was bitter rivalry between the northern and southern states of America. So his people, he was from the south, his people went to him and said, you must play in this competition for our sake, for our pride. So he agrees to play. But he's been drinking so hard he can barely see the ball. One night when he's practicing his shots, a black man comes out from the darkness and offers to be his caddy. That's the actor Will Smith. The movie, incidentally, has a fabulous cast. And he comes out and he offers to be his caddy. So here's the caddy. His name is Bhagavans. Does it ring a bell? Sorry? Bhagwan, correct. You've seen the movie or you heard me? You heard me. Oh, good. Yes, Bhagavan. And the golfer's name is Ranulph Jr. He's called Arjuna for short. No prizes for guessing. Arjuna. And this is not my imagination. Robert Redford says that the movie is based on a book called Gita on the Green, how you can apply the principles of the Bhagavad Gita while playing golf. Any golf enthusiasts here, please watch the movie. So anyway, the competition begins, and at one hole, he's playing so badly that when he asks the caddy, he's confused. He says, which club do I play with? The caddy is disgusted. He says, pick any. You're playing so badly, it doesn't matter which club you pick. But he calls him back and says something that every one of us must remember all our lives. And that is, he says, there's a perfect shot waiting out there. All you've got to do is get yourself out of the way. When I heard that, a thrill went down my spine, because this is the very theme of the Bhagavad Gita. This is the very theme of Indian culture. And this is the last thing that we pick up. When we talk of Indian culture, what do you think of? Music, dance, what else? Bollywood. Now you're saying it because I'm in front of you. Okay, thank you. So, this is the theme. That thought of self. The moment you think of yourself, you make mistakes, you make errors. Think beyond yourself, and that perfection which is already within you now comes out. So, take a look. At match point, now the Wimbledon's about to begin, right? Oh, French Open is not over yet. At the final, who wins doesn't depend on who is more skilled. Who wins depends on who thinks less of himself. The moment you think of yourself, your mind gets agitated, you get nervous, anxious. You can't think straight, your actions are flawed. So this happens to a musician, he sings off key. This happens to a tennis player at match point, double faults. This happens to a cricketer at 99. He's played brilliantly till he's hit 60. At 60, he starts thinking, what? How many times I came up to 90 and failed? And now if I don't get 100, I will be dropped from the team. So it's me, I, that spoils it all. So when you're obsessed with yourself, there is failure staring you in the face. And all of us, all our lives are thinking only of self. When I was very young, I was driving down a road in Mumbai. That's where I live. And I saw a message on a billboard, on a hoarding. And that had a tremendous impact on my life. And that was a saying from Mahatma Gandhi, who said, find purpose, the means will follow. Just find purpose. See, all of us think, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should work for the underprivileged. Maybe I should work for homeless people. Maybe I should do something, serve society. We think that, but we don't act on it because we say, oh, where will I get the means? And this statement is 100% true. And that is, the moment you find the purpose, the means follows. Now, once you decide that you're going to do something, that you're going to contribute. And this has nothing to do with having high and lofty ideals. Along the road that I live on, I used to go for a walk in the morning by the sea. And I would notice every morning there was a street sweeper who would sweep the streets, and that portion that he was allotted would be so clean, there would not be one leaf on the street after he was done. He would sweep from under the cars, something that nobody does. And he was so cheerful. So what was his purpose? Just to do his job well. That's it. And if every one of us were to do our jobs well, with our heart and soul, Vedanta calls it sarva bhavena, means with all your being, excitedly, enthusiastically, cheerfully. That's it, the world will get taken care of. But how do we do our jobs? Half-heartedly. Every 15 minutes you take a coffee break, you chat with someone. There's no heart in it. Therefore, there's no cheer. You're not cheerful. So, in the Gita, the 3rd chapter, which speaks of Karma Yoga, the 10th verse says, and he puts it dramatically, he says, when the human being was created, the human being was given a special gift. We were all born sahayajna, means along with the capacity to sacrifice. And then he says, with this may you prosper. Which means, without it, it is impossible to prosper. And all of us are trying to prosper without it. That's why our activities, our success is like a chicken flying. Have you seen a chicken fly? It makes a great deal of noise. Pat, 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 pat. Before it's off the ground, it's back on the ground. That is our success. Your success should be like an eagle taking off. Just soar aloft. That happens when you have a higher ideal. And then he says, may this be the Kamadhenu of all your endeavors. Kamadhenu is supposed to be a mythological cow supposed to reside in heaven. Was the sage Vasishtha's cow. And what was special about this cow is you go and ask for anything, the cow will grant all your wishes. Now don't ask me for the address of Kamadhenu. Here he says, sacrifice is Kamadhenu. And again, it's so true. You work in a spirit of service and sacrifice for a higher cause, for your community, for your country, for your field of endeavor, for humanity, for the environment, for whatever. What will happen? Your needs your desires will automatically get fulfilled. There's a 31-year-old lawyer in India, in Mumbai, who every Sunday would go to the beach for a walk. And he noticed that the beach was dirty. So the following Sunday, he wore gloves, and while he was walking, he just picked up the trash and put it in the trash can. Silently, he didn't tell anyone that he was doing it, he just did it. And 2 Sundays later, a few kids saw him. They also wore gloves. They joined him. And before you knew it, the MP of that area picked it up and decided to support it. And next thing you knew, this was sent to the United Nations. The United Nations took cognizance of this, and he became a star. This is what now, Don't do it because you want to be a celebrity. It will not happen. Do it because you feel, see, where does this come from? Where does this shift in attitude take place? Go back to your attitude. How do you feel? Every morning when you wake up, how do you feel about yourself? Do you feel deprived? And therefore you go out to work? Do you feel that you don't have a big enough home? You don't have a luxury car? You don't have this, you don't have that. Do you feel that? Do you feel deprived? Then what will you do? You'll do the least possible work, you'll do it in an indifferent way, and you'll be unsuccessful. A few people, handful of people, feel blessed. And this, mind you, has nothing to do with your material assets or wealth. You just feel blessed. You know why it has nothing to do with your wealth? Because what you have see, the most precious things in life come for free and in abundance. Like the oxygen you breathe. Have you ever wondered? During COVID, many people were on the ventilator. And maybe not here because there's NHS here, but elsewhere they had to pay huge amounts just for that oxygen that came through the ventilator. And you have to think, for 5 days on the ventilator, this is what you had to pay. What about the oxygen you got all your life? Don't you think you owe that to someone? So, if you were to count your blessings, you would feel completely overwhelmed with all that you have received. You would feel grateful for it and develop this irresistible urge to give back as a token of your gratitude. What can you give? You can't give anything to that power that has blessed you with millions of things. What can you give? But you can at least express your gratitude. You can feel gratitude. Even that we don't feel. And then you go to a temple, church or mosque, not to pray. Yes, you go to pray, but pray for more. So somebody goes on pilgrimage and says, I went because, my daughter's 35 and still not married. I went and prayed that my daughter should get married. And that particular place that I went to is very powerful because I came back and my daughter got married. Is this what it's all about? If at all you go to a temple, church or mosque, it should be to express your gratitude for all that you have already been given. And then, when you develop this urge to give, in what field will you give? In the field of your talent, your swadharma, as we call it. Swadharma is your core interest, your talent, your passion. That unique something that all of us are born with which we contribute to the world. You must identify your swadharma because only in your swadharma can you prosper, can you do well. If you choose a field alien to your nature, it's a double whammy. Because you don't like what you're doing and you are not doing what you like. So let's say, suppose Nadal had become a chartered accountant. The world would have lost an outstanding tennis player and he probably would not have been half as successful. Similarly, me, we choose vocations based on where we think we'll make money. How can you make money in a field that you have no talent for, no expertise in, no inclination whatsoever? If at all you can be successful, it's in a field of your passion. So now the next question is, how do you identify your passion? Connect with your inner child. What brought you immense joy as a child? What made you lose track of time? What is it that you did not want to leave when your parents called you to dinner? What did you not want to stop? What did you love deep down from the bottom of your heart? Before the world told you to be practical, ask yourself, what would you do with your time? What activities set you on fire? Like, there's the chairman of Quick Copy in Canada, Toronto, happened to be a friend of my father's. This was many years ago. And then at some point he decided to retire and hand over the company to his son and daughter. And he started painting. So I asked him, why painting? He said, ever since I can remember, what I wanted to do was paint. And he started painting, and guess what? He made more money painting than he ever did in his company. That's what it is. What do you love doing? What would a perfect day be like? So all these questions you need to ask yourself and write down the answers. Because every day you won't get the same answers. You might get something different. So repeat the exercise 3 or 4 times without referring to what you had written earlier, and you would find 1 or 2 things repeating come up again and again. That is your shortlist, and between the two, identify your Swadharma. Then discover your purpose. Read. And the more you read, the more you expose yourself to the lives of others and what they have done, you get inspired. Because without exposure to what others, people who are ahead of you, who were better than you don't get that inspiration. Help others. From an early stage, from childhood, you have to be exposed to this attitude to help the less privileged. Cultivate this sense of awe. Meaning, you look at a beautiful flower, and have you wondered, who created this flower? Okay, now is the mango season. You like mangoes? You eat a mango. Have you wondered who created this beautiful fruit? What outstanding things have come together. The shape, aesthetic shape, color, texture, flavor, taste. Amazing. So then you are in the state of ashcharya that the Gita speaks of. Wonderment. You will never find answers to these questions, but it's so amazing. Your hair stands on end when you look at nature and admire it. Build a community of people, like-minded people. Like musicians, they bond together. And it's wonderful to see how they admire each other, how they learn from each other, how they're positive towards each other. And when you build this community, it helps you progress in life because it's a positive feedback that you keep getting. And tell your story. I don't mean bore others with your stories. Write down. Write down your thoughts. Then they get crystallized, otherwise it's all in the air. Then comes, what is your purpose? How far can you stretch? What have you thought of in the past? And you may not achieve it. Right through my childhood, my dream was to become a doctor, work in villages, and wear simple saris. Incidentally, what I'm doing now is not very different from my dream. But you must dream. And therefore, I was looking for opportunities to help people. And I wrote down every time I thought of some, I would read to the blind, I would, I don't know, go to a village and help build a road. As a child, as a student. And when you do this variety of things, then you identify what is your strongest urge. But basically, if you ask someone, what are you working for? What do you think you'll get as an answer? For my paycheck, my salary, my profit. And we bring up children with the same thing. You tell your children, do well in school so that you may get admission into a good university. Do well in the university so that you may get a good job. Why? So that you may earn a lot of money. That's it. How many of us bring up our children to say, do well so that you may contribute to society in whatever field? I had met the former President of India, Dr. Abdul Kalam, a wonderful human being, once invited me to Rashtrapati Bhavan while I was lecturing in Delhi. And I went with pleasure. And the first thing he said to me, he was such a humble person. He said, I'm so sorry that you had to come here. Because the tradition in our country is the student goes to the guru. Look at him talking. He's the President of India. But because of protocol, I couldn't come to you. So he started with an apology. And then we spoke of various things. He said, I'm looking forward to retiring as president. Who says that? There are presidents who lobby for a second term, third term. He was happy to leave. Because, he said, I want to work for children. I want to bring the smile back on our children's faces. They are born happy, but we, the adults, the parents, teachers, everybody, wipes that smile off their face. How? Have you done your homework? That's what we do with our own kids. So the smile is gone. And he said his mission was to bring back the smile on the faces of kids. And he worked for children after that. So, what is your purpose? You must think beyond money. Money can't be the purpose. For the simple reason that Dr. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and survivor of one of the worst concentration camps during the Second World War, said, prosperity is the unintended side effect of your dedication to a cause greater than yourself. Now, if prosperity is the side effect, how can you make it your main concern in life? Find a purpose, do well in that field, prosperity will come to you. Develop merit. You know, nowadays teenagers hassle their parents for high-end brands. Isn't that so? So we conduct courses for teenagers, for children, for young adults, so on and so forth. So for teenagers, then I tell them, have you seen Roger Federer, Nadal, all these sporting greats? They say yes. Every item they wear is a high-end brand, right? Including the socks they wear, the wristbands, whatever, from the ridiculous to the sublime. You think they've paid for it? Of course not. They have been paid a huge fortune to wear them. Why? Because they have merit. Right? Similarly, you develop merit in your field. We've already spoken of identifying your swadharma. Whatever be your field, whether it's music or art or business or Vedanta. gain merit, and the world will amply reward you. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to lobby for it. It comes to you. Laurels and accolades will come to you. They won't mean anything to you. Like Roger Federer was asked, you were a junior champion and then you grew and now you're a world icon. What have you to say? You know what he said? I don't know. I just played tennis because I love it. You see, that's what it should be. Nadal, I think last year or the year before, played in the Australian Open when he had just recovered from COVID. He had an surgery in his ankle, and it was so painful, he had anesthetized his ankle while playing. And after that, when somebody asked him, was it about money? He got wild with that journalist. He said, it's not about money. It cannot be about money when you go through all this. When you excel to that level, it's not about money. See, Don Bradman did not play cricket for money. Mozart did not compose music for money. Ustad Bismillah Khan did not play the Shehnai for money. These were all-time greats. So if you want to succeed in life, you must think of something beyond money. So what is that? So first, wealth, we've seen. Go beyond that and look at your family. Extended family. You view the community as family. The country as family. Nelson Mandela, when he was president, one day he went for a walk one morning and his security guard asked him, how are you, Mr. President, and how's your family? He stopped, turned around, looked at the guard and said, I have a large family. My family consists of 42 million people. What a statement. If somebody were to ask you, how's your family, who will you think of? Spouse, children, that's it. Beyond that is all blurred. What do you think of a guy who thinks the whole nation is his family? And he didn't just say it. He worked very hard to get 4 distinct, different groups in South Africa to work together as one nation. Whites, blacks, coloreds, and Indians. Very different. But he thought of all of them as one. So family can extend. Do you work for knowledge? Like Einstein worked for knowledge. There are physicists, psychologists, all kinds of people who are just dedicated to knowledge. Do you look beyond and work for happiness? Are you looking for happiness? Do you wonder where happiness lies? Vedanta incidentally gives the formula for happiness. But that's another subject. Or do you just want to find yourself? Have you ever wondered, who am I? Do I know who I am? Do I know what's happening inside me? Or do I end up surprising myself? Vedanta says, it has the answers to all. So in other words, it helps you achieve whatever goal you fix for yourself. But it does say, fix a higher goal. Now the higher the goal, the greater is your energy, your enthusiasm, your focus, your creativity, and your success and power. Swami Ramatirtha, when he was lecturing in the United States, America then, in 1902, told his audience that their only duty in life, that any human being's duty in life, only duty, is just to be happy, cheerful, full of beans, irresistible joy and mischief. If you don't have that, he says, if you pull a long face, you're suffering from the most infectious disease. Lock yourself up. Isn't it true? You pull a long face, everybody else pulls a long face. You are cheerful, you smile. Everyone else smiles. You know, I spoke of the street sweeper a little while back. That guy used to smile at everyone, say good morning, and speak in different languages. He would speak in Gujarati to a Gujarati, Marathi to a Maharashtrian, Hindi to everybody else, sometimes English to a foreigner. He would say namaste, good morning, this, that, and he was just full of cheer. Every day. I have never seen him pulling a long face or feeling dejected, looking dejected. And I used to wonder, where does this guy find it in him to be cheerful? He's just sweeping streets. And here are the rest of us. One is a doctor, another is a lawyer. We're all doing well, so-called. We can't find it in us to smile at another morning walker. How does it hurt you to just smile? Now, this motivation that we spoke of, deficiency or abundance, like I said earlier, it has nothing to do with your assets or your income. Because look back on our culture, on the stories that we are brought up with. You've all heard of Sudama? All his life he was a pauper. But never was he uncomfortable with it. His wife got fed up of the poverty. And one day told him, you say you're a friend of Krishna's? He says, yes, Krishna is a dear friend of mine. We're childhood friends. And he's enjoying himself in a palace. And we are living in poverty. Why don't you go ask him for help? So he agreed to go ask him for help, not because he wanted it, because he realized his wife had reached the limit of her tolerance. As he was going out the door, he walked back and told his wife, but I'm meeting my dear friend after so many years. How can I go empty-handed? What a fine thought. He is going on a mission to ask. And the only thing he can think of is, what can I give him? They had nothing in their home. So she went to the neighbors and borrowed some poha, beaten rice, and gave him a handful. He took it, he went to the palace, and he felt awkward to give that little bit to Krishna. But Krishna asked him, Sudama, haven't you got anything for me? And then he took it and ate it with relish, utter relish. And they had fun, they were laughing, they were reminiscing about their childhood and all that. And Sudama left without asking. That is the most amazing thing. It's not that he forgot to ask. It's not that he had dementia. It was not in his DNA to ask. Here we are. Everywhere we go, we are always looking at how to get the better of the other person. And not only that, we attend training programs on negotiating skills. That is the height. You should attend training programs on how to give. Because the law is, give, you gain. Grab, you lose. You don't need to give or grab anything. Think of giving, and you gain. By the same token, you have to just think of grabbing from somebody else, and you're a loser. This attitude makes you a loser. So for heaven's sake, change your attitude if you want to succeed in life. There's no point doing an MBA, no point going to Harvard Business School. That is why when Steve Jobs, one of his friends, went to him and said, if I want to be as successful as you, what do I need to do? He didn't say go to Harvard Business School. You know what he said? Go to India, find a guru. No jokes. And we Indians, neither will we go, nor will we send our children. This is the disconnect between our culture and us, which has led to tragic consequences. And today, Indians in the US, here, everywhere outside India, are desperately trying to hang on to our culture. They're doing their intention is good, but they're doing the wrong thing. Indian culture is not just wearing Indian clothes. It's not about eating Indian food or speaking the Indian language. It's about this. Shift from deficiency motivation to abundance. Now the next thing is, you have to use your intellect and work with the intellect. So our constitution is spirit and matter. Spirit is by itself. Matter, body, mind, intellect. Body is your external personality, which carries you from place to place. Your internal personality consists of two distinct and different entities, mind and intellect. We are human beings because we have the intellect. No other creature is blessed with the intellect. But we don't use the intellect. And we certainly don't develop that intellect. If you have a well-developed intellect, you have clarity of thinking. You're very clear about where you want to go, what you want to achieve. There's clarity. And your intellect controls the whims and fancies of the mind and the demands, the urges of your senses. Then you're a human being. Now, why is the intellect important? Because the mind is just the realm of feelings, loves and hates, likes and dislikes. It's impulse-driven, irrational. It is the intellect which is the seat of logic, analysis, is reason-backed, and is rational. Your mind, ungoverned, is your greatest enemy. The same mind, governed is your greatest friend, and it is the intellect that governs it. So let's take a look at the mind and intellect in greater detail. Now you might think these are the basics. Yes, these are the basics. But since we're not living it, we need to talk about it. There are people who talk about, the Mundaka Upanishad says this and the Kathopanishad says this, and they say, can't you teach the Upanishads? Of course I can. But are you doing the basics? It's like, if you haven't even gone through kindergarten, how can you enroll for a PhD course? So, the mind imagines things. There's a lady in Delhi who actually told me that her mother-in-law was doing black magic on her. Can you believe that? And the fact was, her mother-in-law was a very nice person. It is the intellect that sees reality. You must call the bluff of your own mind. See, you may not think your mother-in-law is doing black magic, but you are imagining so many other things which are tormenting you. The mind tricks you. It's the intellect that guides you properly. The mind distracts you from your goal. It's the intellect that keeps focus. And the mind completely misleads you. The intellect directs you. Take Shakespeare's writings are full of this. Othello strangles to death his wife who was portrayed by Shakespeare as one of the purest specimens of humanity. Why? Because he had a deep complex that he was black and she was white. She came from a higher station and he was inferior. And without dealing with this complex, he was living life. And then when he was faced with a situation, he succumbed. Over what? A stupid handkerchief? Iago tells him, look at this guy. He's wiping his beard with your mother's handkerchief and finished. That's it. He goes and strangles his wife. Operating on the mind can lead you to do obnoxious things. So the mind eventually destroys you. The intellect is that which helps construct. The mind weakens you. You have an attachment for one person, one thing, it can destroy you. A mother's attachment to the child. A man's attachment to power. We've seen so many heads roll. The mind reaches out for instant pleasure. The intellect has the capacity to opt for what we call as deferred gratification. And the mind, so when you opt for instant pleasure, it gives you sorrow in the end. If you educate yourself with the intellect, you have everlasting joy. So, number one, consult your existing intellect and develop it, strengthen it. How to strengthen the intellect? Thinking, questioning, inquiring. Constantly keep that intellect alert and alive by questioning. Question yourself, question others. But questioning is discouraged everywhere. You know, a child keeps asking the mother, why? Mother gets fed up and said, do it because I say so. The child goes to school and asks the question, keeps asking questions to the teacher. Teacher says, shut up and do it because I say so. And then he gets married and the wife says, shut up and do because I say so.